due in May. So we had a similar meeting for the UK user group this morning, and it follows on from previous meetings where we discussed the prioritisation and voted on themes for taking forward on the Monday board. And I met with Tanya, whose role I can't remember, but she's the one who sort of helps me choose what goes forward. And we wrote some change requests together for all the requests, and then they've been put to the engineers to see if it fits in with our allotted time for the next release. So I shall share a spreadsheet. Okay, I'm not going to share it that way. I'm going to share it by screen sharing the window. So you should be able to see the spreadsheet there. It's called Anaesthetics R66. Can everyone see that, or anyone see that?
Yeah.
Cool. So at the top, we've got some smaller requests which have been approved and estimated by the engineers. Some of them are quite simple. The first one there, epidural bolus note, add bolus drug option. That was to include a drug that wasn't already on the list of drugs that you could choose for your unit, which has been requested by a UK site. Next one down, vascular access device note. So what happens when you insert an epidural is that it creates a vascular access device note with epidural catheter, so that you can then remove the epidural catheter and document it's complete when it comes out. This note wasn't created when dural puncture epidurals or CSEs were inserted, so this brings it up to speed for all kinds of epidural catheter insertion, and we'll create a vascular access note for that. I know it's not vascular access, but it's sort of in the background. You don't ever see it as vascular access. Anaesthetic assessment and consent. So there's a request to add a risk of instrumental delivery from consenting for epidurals. That's a simple add-on to the list there. It's not been turned into a unit option that you can choose what appears in the list, but if that's a desire for future, that can be looked at. The anaesthesia smart form, it pulls together a variety of anaesthetic related forms, so the assessment and consent form and the anaesthesia one being the main ones. The date and time that anaesthetist was called was not showing on the iPad and was showing in an unusual place on the desktop version, so that will be fixed. And then the anaesthetic summary report, that's one of the clinical reports that can be outputted as a PDF to the EPR or for sharing in other ways. That will be updated to include the airway assessment that's carried out at the same time, or the most recent airway assessment in the summary report. The next screen section down. Sounds like a call. It sounds a bit rude. Next section down. So new alert when neuraxial morphine or dimorphine is given. This has been combined. There was a request for things to do and alerts in relation to this. After some discussion with the clinical specialist, we think the best way forward will be to have it as a thing to do, where as soon as the spinal or epidural is inserted, then it creates the thing to do from that point on, so that if anyone's looking at the things to do, they will be reminded that the epidural spinal assessment form needs to be completed to document recovery of motor block, and that will stay there. So a reminder that needs to be done at 4 hours or by 4 hours, and that will stay there until a note is completed, showing that both legs can straight leg raise. Sorry, I've been talking about the second one there rather than the dimorphine one. The first one on that list, when neuraxial dimorphine or morphine is given, there are currently some things to do for that. And again, the question as to whether an alert is a more appropriate thing to do. Some of the things to do are a bit or might not reflect current practice in your unit, and units may differ. Certainly in the UK, there was a change in the observations after neuraxial morphine, moving away from hourly observations when we had a dimorphine shortage, and we all started using, or many of us started using morphine. So some of the things to do are sort of contradict what you might do in your local unit. So the aim would be to make it simpler and just recommend that unit guidance or unit protocol is followed for monitoring after neuraxial opioids. Then the next section it's highlighted as at risk. I understand that the at risk part is the testing component. These forms, so the the anaesthetic summary report and which takes input from the specialist review, and the anaesthetic follow-up report, which takes things from the follow-up forms. Both these forms that feed into it are pretty big and a variety of options, because they can be used for a number of things, like the follow-up report. Follow-up note can be used for normal follow-up or post-dural puncture headache follow-up and management, or neuraxial or nerve injury follow-up and management. So it may be there's a challenge to getting all that tested for one release, but Chris Martin's going to get back to me on Wednesday when he's had a bit more clarity on that. So hopefully they'll proceed as described. And then some of the other things that were voted highly were, as I said, we mentioned the things to do will be rationalised, and it's been combined with the change request above anyway. The anaesthetic assessment and consent, there was a couple of options requested there to cover all the interpretation options that we might have. That's been postponed because there's other similar work on use of interpreter, which would affect all forms where that is discussed. So hopefully we'll see that later. And then these these change requests down here, which are part of a different team, are about building the women lists. First one here being a single list for all patients needing follow-up today, so that would be a combined list of the not followed up list and the further follow-up required list. A few sites in the UK have reported that people focus on the not followed up list and forget about the further follow-up required, and would find it easier to have a single list where you just look at people who are needing follow-up today, whether they're having their first follow-up or they're needing further follow-up. And ideally, as highlighted by someone earlier today, you'll be able to tell from looking at the list the reason for the person being on the list, because that might influence whether you then go straight to the follow-up note if it's the first follow-up, or whether you have a look through the existing follow-up notes first of all and see what's been going on before doing the further follow-up. The secondary question to that is whether we have this combined list and keep the other lists as they currently are. I think it might be easier and less confusing if we don't have another list that does follow-up, and just have one combined list that does it all, and remove the current options as they are, unless anyone has feels there's a reason to be able to keep the lists separate as they are. As I said, ideally you would be able to you'd have indicated on the list why the patient was on the list, and be able to tell them apart. And then the other women list to be created is again part of work for a different team, and not part of the effort for the this next release is a new follow-up list for remifentanil. So patients who've had remifentanil, PCA, and not had follow-up completed for that. So that's where we are with what we are think we are able to achieve with this release. Anybody, any thoughts, comments, questions, anything that they feel is missing from the release?
I guess, and I'm no anaesthetist, clearly, but one of the things that that I sort of wonder is when you look at that and say, you know, somebody's asked for another report for follow-up for remifentanil and PCAs. I mean, the same people would follow those up. So why does he need another? Why do you need a separate list?
Mainly because some units might not do follow-up at all of remifentanil. So some way of separating it out, where you wouldn't have the list full of patients on remifentanil if you don't already do the follow-up. And follow-up may also be done in a different way. It might be done by midwives at the end of delivery before they leave labour ward. Or just carried out in a different fashion, separate from the You
can just see how, like, everything, you know, the lists, you get so many lists and it all becomes so enormous. But anyway, just not going.
I think you know, ideally there would have been one list, but if you could have like somehow turned on and off with a remifentanil follow-up feeds into that list, then that may have been good. But I think the simplest way to do it is just have a separate list. Maybe that'll be combined next year.
Well, you know, maybe the list could just be smarter, where the list says, you know, the follow-up and the type, you know, remifentanil or epidural or spinal or whatever, because then that would just give you one list. But anyway, shush now.
Well, it's certainly something to consider. I think it's Dan that creates the lists, and see how smart they could be.
Yeah. I think it's a good point, Hayley. I agree, because I had the same thought as, you could have a column where you could define if it was remifentanil or not. But I think one of the other problems with some of the lists is there are so many columns, you have to scroll across a lot, and it becomes hard to navigate. So it's a bit of a, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
Yeah. Actually, it would be better to talk to the list people about some fabulous suggestions we've got, Elaine, for making those lists more user-friendly.
Well, I'll talk to Dan, because Dan's really
more
good
interactive.
At coming up with, Dan's very detailed and very diligent about things, and he's good at suggestions as well. So I might have a wee chat with him on the side and see what he thinks.
Yeah, that'd be good. Kelly.
Just a question regarding one of the change requests about airway, to airway assessment to be included in the anaesthetic summary report, anaesthetic review block. Will this be available to anaesthetic specialist review? Will all the airway assessment tick boxes and information to be included in that block?
In the anaesthetic specialist review report?
So one question at a time. So will this airway assessment be available in anaesthetic review, anaesthetic clinic review report, PDF report?
As it's currently described, no, which I've just realised today is a bit of a gap. So this is focusing on
so this is our challenge with the anaesthetic changes. When one changes, when one aspect change, it doesn't flow on to the others. Therefore, we're gonna make a subsequent change. The reason our unit don't use anaesthetic summary report is because when you have multiple review, that report goes very extensively long. So we would prefer to use an anaesthetic specialist review, where again you've got two specialist review and an anaesthetic clinic, anaesthetic specialist review, and anaesthetic clinic review is missing quite a lot of field. So cool. Thank you for clarifying. That's not going to be included in the specialist.
Yeah, I don't know if it would still be possible to squeeze that in if there's any gaps in the efforts that we're taking up. It's a hopeful question towards Eddie and Elaine, whether we could, because the changes required for the summary report are the same ones that we would need in the specialist review report. So I don't know.
Yeah, so what we're doing, just to be clear, what we're doing here is we're adding fields into the anaesthetic reviews reporting block. So no matter what the PDF report is, if it contains that block, it will have those fields in it.
Okay, so
so we're not adding fields to individual reports here. We're adding fields to the block, the reporting block.
Okay, so
if that block's added to any report, it will have all of those fields.
That's a relief.
Well, that'll be good. Would that include all the tick boxes and the comment viewed in the airway assessment, or only certain tick boxes?
Yeah, so it's got the comments as well. I'm just looking at the change request now. Yeah, so it's all of those airway assessment fields, and that includes comments.
Thank you very much.
I'll just post them quickly into the chat and you can see.
For change request, that could not make to this release, will we wait for another year round for the other change requests? Thank you, Elaine.
It depends on the clinical urgency, whether it's impacting on your ability to either record or deliver care. So if it's high priority, then there's a possibility. Elaine's been good in the past at getting things in outside of the anaesthetic release.
Yeah, I think the problem, Kelly, if you look at, I mean, you can see on the Monday board, there's just a huge list of changes requested. And I think, yeah, to a point, it's the clinical urgency dictates the priority of those change requests. Callum, would you agree with that?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So it's low priority ones would wait until next year's major anaesthetic release. But yeah, if there's anything urgent, or it's inhibiting how you use Badgernet particularly, then that prioritised. Do you have anything?
And the other thing is, so when change requests are reviewed, they go through a review process with the project manager, who's Tanya, and then they go to they don't only go to the engineers, they also go to the testing team. So basically, the hours estimated per change request combine everything. So it's how long is it going to take to review this, engineer it, test it, and obviously the mix, some things are going to take 5 hours, some things are going to take an hour. So there's also fitting everything together so that within a release, it's like a jigsaw, really. You have some tickets that are huge, but then, when Tanya's organising the release there, they might, she might be looking at it going, we can put another one in there. We've got an hour. So then, you can fit smaller ones in as well. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of toing and froing of fitting things in.
Thank you.
Well, that's certainly good news about the report block being the thing that's built.
Yeah.
Great. So hopefully all these things they're going to get through, and that Chris will get back to us on Wednesday about the testing thing. We'll put a summary of this on the Monday board as well, for all the anaesthetists to look at, and the recording of this meeting as well, should they wish to sit down for half an hour. But has anyone else got anything else to say? No.
I can't get an anaesthetist to come on, so yeah. Anyway, we're just back Matt Drake up.
Yeah.
That's County's role in this, pretty much. Thank you, Hayley.
Oh, we had a sparsely attended UK meeting as well, compared with the.
Did you?
Yeah, so it's just sort of in line with that one as well.
Oh, okay. Oh, good to know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess people are maybe just happy that if they vote on what they want, then these will be the ones taken forward if they get the most votes.
Mm,
Excellent.
very good. All right. So you'll post this.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch the recording, but you'll post the the spreadsheet.
Yeah, we'll put it
Yeah.
on the Monday's board somewhere. Yeah, and
Excellent.
tag everyone. Yeah,
Beautiful. Thanks heaps, Callum.
I'll
Okay,
probably wait
thanks,
till
Callum.
Wednesday when I hear from Chris, just to get some clarity on the ones at risk of capacity, due to capacity. We know more about that. Yeah. Great.
Sounds
So thanks everyone for joining. Have a great
Thanks,
Okay.
day.
Callum. See you, Clary.
You too.
Lovely to see
See
ya.
ya.
Bye.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.